Before we begin our business today, I will take 5 minutes to focus our attention on the global 16 Days of Action Against Gender-Based Violence, which begins today. The campaign runs between the 25th of November, International Day Against Violence Against Women, and the 10th of December, International Human Rights Day, emphasising that violence against women is a violation of human rights. COSLA is a co-owner of the Equally Safe strategy with the Scottish Government. As such, it is our everyday job to demonstrate leadership in tackling gender-based violence, to use COSLA's power and influence to prevent this harm from occurring, to support recovery, and to hold individuals accountable for harms caused. Local government committed to responding to the gender impacts of the pandemic in our blueprint, and now the further impacts on gender equality, well-being and safety of women as outcomes of the cost of living crisis calls us to continue that response. The stark reality of this was tragically demonstrated through the latest official figures from Scotland's chief statistician, released last month. While overall the number of homicides across Scotland are now at their lowest point since records began in 1976, there has been a 60% increase in the number of women killed in Scotland across the last year. Over half of the 16 women who lost their lives were killed by a partner or ex-partner, and all but 2 were killed by a family member or by someone they knew. In addition, the fear of sexual violence permeates and affects women's everyday freedoms and choices. We know risks are real. Levels of sexual crime increased by 15% between 2020 and 2021, and 2021 and 2022. As with homicide, the men who perpetrate sexual violence toward women are mostly well known to their victims. They are their partners, their ex-partners, their relatives, colleagues and friends. Men's violence toward women takes place mostly in dwellings or, in everyday language, in women's homes. All loss of life to violence is unacceptable. Any death is one too many. We can take some comfort that overall levels of homicide in Scotland have fallen by 54% over the last 15 years, but no comfort in seeing where shifts are not being made. This is in the violence experienced by women perpetrated against them by men, and in the figures that tell us that men are overwhelmingly the perpetrators of violence against women and all others. It is therefore clear that the lives of boys and men are also limited and harmed by gendered attitudes, gendered expectations, and resultant violent behaviours. Making the shift to prevention is critical. Today, on the first day of this International 16 Days campaign, COSLA stands together with organisations and governments from approximately 187 countries across the world with whom, through this campaign, we concentrate our efforts annually. Through our 16 days of campaigning activity, COSLA will demonstrate support for the work of councils and their multi-agency violence against women partnerships and the local services working to support victims. We will focus attention on important topics and linked policy areas through our social media campaigning and by supporting a number of spotlight events being led by the National Violence Against Women Partnership Network. Our National 16 Days event on the 8th of December is being co-chaired by COSLA and the Scottish Government. It offers an opportunity for Scotland's leadership from across spheres of government and the public sector to consider and explore what next is needed to enable us to turn the tide of rising levels of gender-based violence and what our next determined steps toward making the difference we must see will be. Women and girls and boys and men all have a right to live in a Scotland where the attitudes and behaviours that underpin male violence generally and perpetuate levels of male violence against women and girls no longer exist. As President of COSLA, I reaffirm that local government will continue to demonstrate leadership towards creating a Scotland where we can all live our lives in equal safety.